resource for facilitating international trade. The third category, customs and compliance, where users are able to obtain information needed to manage their shipment and comply with rules and regulation in the target country, as well as find the applicable duties at the product level. As shown in the table on the screen, these are the models as they fall into the three different categories. I will, I will continue to give more details on each module. So the first module that we'll look at is best countries to trade. This module allows users to identify the top partner countries to export any given product based on the largest trade flows. The product is defined by a 6-digit HS number out of a total of over 5,000 different product descriptions. Country profile, this is a profile of over 188 countries as it relates to trade and general information about those countries around the world. Import and export flows, this module identifies the value of export/import flows for any given product to and from one of or a set of countries chosen by the user. There's also market insights, which contains over 25,000 industry and country-specific market reports and industrial insights. On the second category, first module, counterparts, this search tool helps you identify which companies import or export a specific product and provide an outline of the trade activity of each company. This module has over 1.5 million companies listed worldwide. The business directory that is available, the second module, a database that covers over 1,800 business directories from different industries around the world. There's also the professional associations and trade shows that are available. Marketplaces, this is a module. This database includes over 510 marketplaces classified by the country, continents, and/or industry. Information provided include a short description of the marketplace, the marketing feature proposed, the KPIs, the geographical coverage, the type of sale, whether it be business to business or business to consumer, depending on the market that you're looking to explore. There's also a tenders module that is available, which are tenders that are published around the world for persons in Jamaica that to make use of. On the third category, customs and compliance, the first module, shipping documents, this database identifies all the necessary documents to authorize the departure of goods from one country to their entry into another country for all parties involved in the trade and transit process. Import controls and export controls. So import controls, this database identifies product-specific barriers to importing, such as quotas, license requirements, anti-dumping and countervailing duties, prohibitions, embargoes, etc. In relation to importing any product, and this is broken down by the HS code in that particular country. So that's the local HS code for those countries around the world, which over 190 countries are covered. Export controls, this database identifies license requirements and restrictions for exporting of goods, including dual-use goods, into any country around the world. There's also a blacklist counterparts. This database assists in establishing whether a company or individual has been placed on any official list of parties sanctioned or banned by foreign trade transactions around the world. And this tool comprises of over 700 lists around the world, including the UN, the EU, the US consolidated list, as well as multiple government national governments around the world. There's also the custom classification, which are both local and the general HS code classification. For the local custom classification, this tool enables users to find their local customs code up to the 12-digit where applicable in 133 countries, either by and they can either be searched via the tree structure of the local classification, or searched by a keyword, or searched by a HS code itself. The, on the gateway, we have also saw the need where there was need for additional tools to support the information that was provided. These tools would include a landing cost calculator, which is a tool to calculate duties, import taxes, transportation, and insurance charges for importing of goods into any country around the world. There's a selling price calculator, which is a tool to determine the selling price of a specific product, including all the necessary costs related to exporting in a given country. There's also a currency converter and a measurement converter that is available. We will now shift over to the live demonstration. So welcome to the export. Welcome to the Export Jamaica Gateway. This can be accessed by going to the URL tradeboard.gov.jm/export Jamaica, or you can click on a link that is accessible via the Tradeboard main website. As mentioned before, the three categories that are shown at the top of the screen are Explore New Markets, which shows the modules as explained that are listed below. There's Engage Businesses, which shows the modules listed below, and Customs and Compliance. There is also an About Us section, which tells a little bit about Export Jamaica, which provides an overview of the gateway, including some of the benefits of utilizing the gateway. As you scroll below, there's a Contact Us section, which provides contact details in the case there is a query, or there's also a feedback form that is available that you can send feedback in the case there is any errors or anything that you would like clarification on. Below, the frequent asked section provides information on the most common inquiries received. So as we receive the inquiries, we will compile those and put these responses on the gateway. All right, to explore Export Jamaica, the user will first register by creating a profile to utilize the system. You will then go to the sign up, where some information will be required, including the business name, business number, TRN number, first name and last name, email address, and a username and password just to create accounts to utilize the system. Once submitted, the trade board will then verify this information against the company's office database just to verify that this is actually a benefit that we are giving to the Jamaican population. So to demonstrate the rest of the portal, what I'm going to do now is to use a use case scenario. The scenario where we will be using is a young farmer who have, say for example, inherited some land and decides to go
that the government offers in relation to mitigation program. Could you be specific in terms of who are able to access
in the back of his mind in the case that you want to export information? Some of the questions would be like, what are the main countries that are importing ginger, for example? What is the size of the market that is available? What information on doing business in that country can I gather?
We can't give you an exact figure at this stage. What we can say is that
Minister,
several contractors will be paid by the end of the financial year.
There's a figure of close to $10 billion being banded out there that is owed to contractors. And reason why my concern, if it is only $4 billion in here.
But that figure is
So,
not so.
well, you have the CEO for the National Works Agency. You have the CEO.
Sorry, I just realized the sound wasn't coming through. I'm very sorry about that.
I'm sure you can give an idea of what is owed to contractors out there.
It's nowhere near $10 billion, and we don't have that exact figure now.
Give me
It's not double digits in billions.
And the reason why the concern, Minister, is because what we have seen in the past, and why I'm concerned now is that we have seen where monies are owed at the end of the financial year to contractors, and then we roll it over into the new financial year with a figure of $4.3 billion here for road maintenance. If it is that, which has happened in the past, that we use the new financial year to clean up the previous financial year, then there is actually nothing left for road maintenance.
And you can be assured that's not the case here.
Well, I'm not sure if I can take your word on that right now.
But that's the word.
That's why I'm asking you.
That's the word you'll have to take.
No, but that's why I'm asking you know how much is owed to.
But I don't have that exact figure, but I commit to getting back to you with it.
The issue of the Spark program, Minister, because the Prime Minister, in one of his last presentation in the House before we broke for the local government election, spoke about the Spark program, and that members of Parliament should complete consultation by the end of this month. But today is the 6th of March. We have not yet gotten any official correspondence from neither the ministry nor the NWA on how it is that members of Parliament should approach. And the reason why I ask is because I see no indication of the program in the estimates. Can the minister say what is the way forward that we should move? Or is there any correspondence that we expect to hear or get in the way forward, because March is fastly coming to an end?
My understanding is that the announcements and the correspondence will come to you very soon, within days. And to note, the Spark program is currently going through the PIAB process. We all know the time associated with the procurement and with getting on the projects list in the country. So it is going through that process now, so it wouldn't be in this book now.
Well, I'm sure members of Parliament are concerned about the time frame that they were given verbally by the Prime Minister to complete the consultations. And that's at least the first phase, and then the selection of the roads before we even approach the National Works Agency. So that is the part of it that I am really concerned about, so that the members of Parliament, especially those on this side, can know what to do.
The announcement will come shortly, member.
So the March date is no longer in play.
The announcement will come shortly, member.
You see, what happens is that we like to make announcements, Minister, when our constituents then ask the question on why it is we are not yet doing the consultations. Mr. The Southern Coastal Highway, there's some $6 billion in the capital for the Southern Coastal Highway. Can the minister tell us how many, if all the packages have already gone out, completed tender and work started on all the packages that will remain.
Yes, all packages have gone out and started. 11 of 16 packages are complete.
11 of 16 packages are
complete.
And then time frame to complete the balance?
The other 5 were awarded last year and will be completed by April of 2025.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Minister, I note here on the 19,000 36. The
C36?
Yes. Coming over from 35, rural water, that the matter relating to, and I get parochial now, St. Mary and Jordan's Run is no longer under the purview of the National Water Commission based on what is presented here. Now, it is rural water, and it's rural water supply limited based on this here, which is presented. What is the current status and when is it that you're expected to have this particular system in operation? Having regard to the fact that this has started, that project is probably from about 2006, 2007. Yes, CEO, it's that long. And we're still waiting. In fact, as you are aware, Minister, a lot of housing developments are dependent on this particular system. And what I'd like also to know is whether the initial proposal to have another reservoir being built for this particular system to supply Highgate and sections of Southeast St. Mary is still being contemplated.
So the matter related to the Jordan wells, we expect to complete construction, development, connection of the system this calendar year. The last, I would say, administrative hurdles we expect to cross in a matter of weeks, and we'll happily invite you to the groundbreaking.
I didn't hear the last part, Minister. I'm sorry.
The last administrative hurdles we expect to be resolved in a matter of weeks, and we expect to invite you to the groundbreaking shortly, but the work will be complete this calendar year. The reservoir, there are varying views as to whether it is needed. It's not contemplated for this financial year or next year because the significant outflows from that well with the piping work that we've done should be sufficient to deal with the growth in population you've had in the area as it stands now. I suspect to facilitate further growth, we will have to do a detailed analysis of what the secondary storage capacity is going to really need to be.
But Minister, the transmission mains going into the Claremont Reservoir is only of a certain size.
Correct.
And even if you have water pumped 24/7 with what you're proposing to have at Agualto Vale, it still would not be able to prevent water being regulated to the areas, because currently there are some areas that only get water one day per week.
Correct.
And even if you start pumping to that reservoir 24 hours per day with the redundancy in terms of pumps that you have there, you'll still have a situation where the service to the existing mains and the existing customers, even without going forward, would not be sufficient to have water on a constant basis. So even if you do not contemplate a reservoir, probably what you should also contemplate is probably another transmission main to get more water into the system.
And we have contemplated that, and it was a part of pipe purchases where pipes were delivered last year. We expect to do quite a bit of work internally as we've increased the capacity at National Water Commission to deliver some of these projects. So there'll be several pipe upgrades within the constituency. Between Port Maria and Negril, it is close to $200 million of pipe upgrades that are required to carry the source water that we need to all the communities along that space. We expect to be at PIAB for a massive upgrade later this calendar year.
Minister, whilst we are very grateful for what happens on the North Coast, right now is Jordan's Run Highgate, and so which is not supplied by that, which is my main concern. And I'm also speaking on behalf of my colleague from Southeast.
I just meant geographically. I don't just mean mains on the main road. So for instance, a line from a Rossi's into a Negril is a $30 million line, and that will benefit communities from as far as a Land Isle to Green Island, etc. It's not just internally. The piping work and the secondary storage that is required pretty much just on the North Coast parishes, not on the North Coast road, is what I'm referring to.
You recall one minister, I said I was being very parochial with St. Mary.
And I understand.
All right. There's one other matter, Minister, and it relates to the 19,000 C26, which is reforestation, and they completed. You had 15 hectares in Penance. Just my thinking, and I know that there is, based on what you said earlier on in response to questions, that there is improvement in the reforestation and planting of trees in this fiscal year. The concern I have, and I have no doubt, but I'll hear it nonetheless, that your technocrats have looked at it, is not only in terms of reforestation, but reforestation in terms of also water, having underground sources of water by the roots of the trees. So reforestation in areas which are catchment areas for the major water supply systems. And part of the concern I have, now, though not expressed here in terms of what is on the paper, is whether there is also for the Blue Mountain area in terms of reforestation there because of what has happened over the years, either from agriculture, coffee, as well as deforestation.
Your concern, admittedly, member, is well placed. The shift in our weather patterns brought about by climate change has affected the forested areas of the eastern tip of the island very badly. So East Rural, St. Andrew, St. Thomas, Portland, and St. Mary have had a really hard time. These communities that depend on the ecological health of these hills have suffered. Last year, one should recall that in February, we had the driest February in our history. Kingston and St. Andrew received 8% of its 30-year average rainfall. St. Thomas and St. Mary received 17% of its 30-year average rainfall. And Portland received 18% of its 30-year rainfall. From October 2022 to the end of March 2023, it was the driest 6 months cumulatively in the history of Jamaica. That dryness was predominantly on the eastern end of the island. It is why the Forestry Department has spent a lot of time over the last year in doing the ground truthing exercises to see what prevails. And we are very focused, I would say, from as far as Clarendon, which has also seen the impacts of climate change, right through the Blue Mountains coming into St. Mary. It is the area that has been affected the worst. So though we've achieved in excess of 2.8 million trees planted under the National Tree Planting Initiative, we would have been slowed up by that drought because you can't proceed during that sort of condition. Though we expect to complete it within a matter of months, a lot of focus will have to go in new targets in that area, member. So your query is well placed.
And final one, Minister, the river training.
Yes.
I would beg of you to ask your CEO is directly behind you.
Yes.
To indicate what river training plans are there for the Outram River in Port Maria, which, and I'll also share that with my colleague from Western St. Thomas. The river training, because as you know, Port Maria is at and in some sections below sea level. And with the Outram River being the main and the Padgy River in the east, Port Moresby is a constant threat from flooding. We have significant areas along the river stretch which is being eroded. Houses are being affected, and we need to know that the program that was started years ago is continued going upriver so that the property and the livelihoods of people can be protected.
The rivers you have inquired about are not covered in the $70 million allocation, but being very clear on the situation, we will examine it and get back to you.
Sounds like a good answer, but that's it.
It's the best one I can give.
Thank you.
Minister, I want to continue on rivers. This time I want to focus on desilting of rivers and gullies. It's not unusual that the Kingston area, particularly Lower St. Andrew, is where a lot of our industrial activities are and take place, and you have residential developments as well. The Duane River rises in Kingston. It's the only river that runs in Kingston and in St. Andrew. And for decades, that river, we have failed to desilt the river, giving rise to a situation where we have given up most of the lands in Lower St. Andrew to flooding. Most of the lands. In fact, businesses had to relocate because of our failure to really address the desilting situation in the Duane River and where it converges with the Fresh River and some other water sources. Minister, it is now creating a situation that your CEO behind you is well aware that we're creating a flood zone in the a good section of Western St. Andrew, entire flood zones. And it cannot be allowed to continue. Otherwise, it's not just the people in Riverton, but else we have to start relocating. But beyond that, we have the situation with the Sandy Gully. Minister, it cannot be any worse. The threat to infrastructure and to businesses and to lives is a clear and present danger. And I can't do anything more to exaggerate that. It is the bridge that crosses Sandy Gully. In the last rain in December, it was cresting at just feet below that bridge. Why? Because we've allowed an island to develop in Sandy Gully. Sandy Gully is the main artery that drains the water from Kingston and St. Andrew. And it is now an island where people can actually build houses in the Sandy Gully. Minister, we are playing with something very, very serious. The last rain has breached the walls of the Sandy Gully and the floor of the Sandy Gully. And it's in a deplorable condition. And it is urgent. And I cannot imagine that we don't have today a response as to how quickly we're going to address this situation. But I go a little further just before you try. To continue, all of Marcus Garvey, the Port of Kingston, and Tinsapen are also part of this flood zone. And again, for lack of attention, it now represents a clear and present danger. And we talked earlier about climate resilience, and we now talk about drains and gullies and flooding. And that's an entire area that has to be addressed. Otherwise, very soon, we're going to have cause to be concerned and to be regretting that we did nothing while we had the opportunity to do so. I want to know how do we plan to respond in this budget to that very serious situation that currently exists?
Though the Haney River is one of concern, it is not contemplated within the 62 million for this year. As it relates to the Sandy Gully, one should note that from 6 Mile to 3 Mile will be covered under the Spark program in terms of resurfacing as well as bridge work in that space. Both from the cleaning of gullies allocation at activity 10643, as well as from the Spark allocation, we expect to deal with the area of concern in the Sandy Gully this year. An assessment has to be done of the Sandy Gully and its integrity throughout the course of the year, because that allocation and that activity will not be sufficient based on its age and the depreciation of that national asset.
And Marcus Garvey and Principal.
Marcus Garvey is an area that the Jamaica Systemic Risk Assessment Tool has identified as a climate risk to the government. It has formed a part of the ongoing National Adaptation Plan development in looking at the national assets and the risks and the costs of fixing that. It is something that we're very clear on, but it is not covered in this year's budget.
All right. Minister, while I'm at it, may I just ask a few more questions then? With respect to the Development Bank of Jamaica, you have several programs which seeks to address the situation affecting the micro, small, medium-sized enterprises, MSME sector. And yet what we see continually happening is that the take-up of these resources, even grant sources, are not what it ought to be. Certainly, by now we should be thinking about some of the fundamental issues that affect the MSME sector, not least of which is the informality of the sector and trying to find some solution to that. So it can't be simply a matter of allocating each year a bulk of money in the budget, which comes back and it's not taken up in any meaningful way because the need is urgent. What are the strategies that we're going to employ differently from what we've been doing to ensure that this is not just a paper exercise each year of allocating sums of money, and it comes back that they're not being sufficiently taken up or addressed by the MSME sector?
So there is a large part of that question that is addressed under the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. And we should recall that coming out of the 2013 IMF agreement, the Self-Start Fund was absorbed into MIDA and then subsequently into the Exim Bank, which is housed at MIIC, so I wouldn't be able to address what is handled there. But just to note that last year or this budget year, we were able to deploy 100% of the funds under the SERVE program, which directly targets MSMEs. Though not an agency under my direct superintendence, that is a report that I have. But I believe the primary focus on MSMEs is indeed under MIIC.
Just a follow. Well, 19,000 C7, which is a program through Development Bank of Jamaica. They access to finance for MSMEs. And we see where 750 was approved in the estimate, 23, 24, only 228. And even in the previous financial year, we see that the take-up has been low. And I think what the member was trying to find out, what are the issues, why the take-up, especially for these fundings that have been provided out there, why the low take-up? Is it administrative? What are the issues?
So there was a decision taken, remember, in the year that is coming to a close for a reallocation of $5 million US to the venture capital fund under the development bank. That's my information. So the reduction was not necessarily because of.
But there was a reduction also the previous year. So, you know, it begs the question if there are issues with accessing the financing through these small and medium-sized entities through these monies that have been provided. And this has been a long-standing issue. It is not just now. But why is it that there has been such a low take-up of monies that have been provided on an annual basis?
So as I'm advised, we have had a number of issues with those who have applied and their qualification for the funds under the DBJ's rules. I know that the rules are quite different under the old self-start fund and MIDA, which is dealt with by
Can hardly hear you, Minister.
No, my understanding is that we have had issues with the qualification of prospective borrowers under the DBJ's rules. I know from my time at JBDC that is where those who had qualification issues were to be dealt with, which is now under the Exim Bank, which is under MIIC.
But I understand that Exim Bank is having a similar issue with low take-up from the small and medium-sized enterprises also.
I understand that to be so, but wouldn't be able to speak about it as well, as it's not under MedJet.
But I mean,
but I understand the concern.
This is just,
and I think it's something that we'll have to address.
We'll have to look at, because if the small and medium-sized enterprises, we keep saying, both sides, that this is going to be the growth of the economy. And there's access to funding, but they can't access the funding.
There is convergence of concern, member, so we agree.
Let's continue, Minister. The Port Authority. The two sets of questions for the Port Authority. The Port Authority has a significant portfolio investment in the BPO space. That space, we are told, is now, there are some risks to a lot of that BPO operation, in part from AI and the adoption of AI in a lot of these activities. What I want to know from the BPO, from the Port Authority, in respect of that portfolio area, what are the responses you're seeing, and are there any fallout? Is there any fallout now? And your projection for the future for the BPO activities due in large measure to technology and the technological revolution that is now part of that space? What are the implications for the portfolio?
So I would bring members' focus to the investment plan under the summary corporate plan on page 82 of the public body's book. You would notice that there are no investments slated for Port Authority in the area of BPO. A policy decision has also been taken.
No, you mean no additional?
No additional investments to be made in that area. The decision has also been made for the Port Authority to monetize its existing assets by way of divestment of its infrastructure in BPO space. The BPO industry is largely, again, focused on by the MIIC, and I would allow them to answer in terms of the risks to the BPO sector generally. But in terms of the assets that the Port Authority has, the intention is to divest those and focus on its core business.
So my questions still remain. If you intend to divest those, if AI poses a risk, what sort of value you expect to obtain from that divestment?
The policy decision is not based on any risk per se to the BPO industry. It is because the opportunities that present itself that we have been taking advantage of in the area of shipping and logistics, you need the additional capital to take advantage of those. So we are monetizing those assets to allow us to move much faster in taking advantage of that logistics capacity. The risks from AI and indeed the general state of the industry is not one that I'll be able to speak to, member.
Repeat that, because that's
The risks or opportunities in that industry is not one that I would be able to speak to. It's not an industry that I have oversight of.
no, but Port Authority does.
But we have indicated that we have started the process to divest those assets.
And so my question shifts. I hear that, I understand that. My question shifts. Question shifts and focuses now on the risks to the assets themselves and what their assessment is as to the value to be. Because, Minister, you're saying the resource is to go into another area. And so I'm saying, what are the value to be realized from the assets, if in fact there are risks to the asset, which is what is the premise of my argument.
Though not my area, it continues, the BPO space continues to benefit from significant interest, even with new investors who wish to come here. The policy decision to divest those assets is not based on an assessed risk from AI or other potential threats. It is purely to ensure that the resource is used in line with the Port Authority's core business.
Well, let me shift then to logistics. Since you say that's the purpose of the divestment, is to garner the resource from that to go into logistics. Now, what sort of, well, is that the focus of your Ministry of the Port Authority at all? Because that's a shift in focus.
I'm not following.
Before I ask a question about logistics, because I don't want to hear that it's not the focus of your focus, so that you can't answer the question.
Sure. So remember, the indication, there's already indication that Port Authority will be moving to commence the development of the Caymanas Economic Zone, the capital projects, which all speaks to the capacity of shipping and indeed logistics, are indeed listed, which include the Montego Bay Berth 1 and 2, the Falmouth cruise ship pier, indeed the lighthouses, which are indeed damaged and in need of updating, and indeed the electronic validated bill for lading and import clearance activities are the focuses of the budget of the Port Authority this year, which we expect to significantly increase the capacity for Jamaica to engage in logistics.
So can I ask you some deeper question on this, the Cayman Special Economic Zone then? You can answer a question on that, right?
So the works that are contemplated this year include land acquisition and technical design works, and not construction or infrastructure works at this stage.
So it's a pre-investment work.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's a lot of land. It's 4.2 billion. That's why I wanted to know what.
And it will require a lot of space, so there'll be a lot of land acquisition.
Okay. All right. Can I go back to subhead 12, activity 12825, which is enhancement of community environs that deals with the zinc fence removal program. I had, from the early stages, when that program was initiated, I have written seeking assistance to address a very glaring issue which affects the community of New Haven. When you drive on the top of the New Haven Road and you look, the zinc, the entire appearance along the boulevard and onto the highway is exposed, and so we've asked for the zinc fence. It's a zinc fence line in the entire stretch to remove the zinc fences, and we have not even had the benefit of a response to what is that glaring concerns. If you're talking about addressing the environment, coming from from Boulevard onto the highway, it is a glaring situation, which even for the Tourism Enhancement Fund, it's a project that when I didn't get a response, I tried to pivot to see if we can get a response from either of those. And there's been no response. There's no response.
So to deal with the members, to deal with just an overview of the program, it is listed in its at activity 12.825, and 250 million for use of goods and services is indeed, that is 19,017 that is covered there. To note, we have received projects and project proposals from 55 constituencies. They have been reviewed and evaluated. My understanding is that all 55 would have been contacted. If there's a contact issue, we can deal with that separately. Though 8 constituencies have not yet submitted, a total of 90 proposals from these 55 constituencies have been reviewed. 61 developed to the stage where implementation can be undertaken. 25 projects have been implemented in 12 constituencies at a cost of 36 million. 20 projects are still in progress and costing 31 million in 11 constituencies to be completed before the end of the financial year. There are 12 projects where contracts have been signed, and these have all been done with restricted bidding procurement methodology. There are 4 projects which are expected to be awarded that value some 35 million, which we expect to be done before the end of the financial year. What I see here in relation to your project that you would have submitted is that the tender process was completed. However, we had no responsive bidder. The project is to be retendered on March 29th.
Okay. Thank you.
Minister, unless you have a point of order, you have a long list.
Madam Chairman, assuming that since my mic is on, you're giving me permission to speak. I've been waiting for quite some time.
Finish?
Oh, he's talking.
Activities finish. Member Hilton,
Are you done, Tony?
Member Brown?
Yeah. Just a simple question, Minister. Thank you very much.
Members allow Member Brownberg to speak.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Minister, just one simple question. It's a follow-on really from the question that was asked earlier by Member Hilton. He had asked you about the Marcus Garvey Tinson Pen area and the works there. I wanted to take it just a little bit further up. East Avenue, we have had some diversions since the works that were done in terms of the laying of the pipes and so on. The entire community, all the communities in that area, they have been thoroughly displaced. We have been asking for quite some time when we are going to revert to that 2-way, do the repairs that are required, and return the community to the persons who live there, so that they can come in and go out with certain safety. You were there. We have asked the police, we have asked NWA, we have asked you before, and I am not sure if it is in the Spark program or if there is an allocation elsewhere for it. And I'm duty bound sitting here today to ask that question.
As part of the NWA component on the Spark, it will be done this year. But I do recall your questions on that, even previously,
Member Hannah.
Thank you. Good morning, Minister.
Morning, Member.
Good morning to your team. And I wanted to just start off by asking you, I mean, I think all of us are coming out of a particular recent exercise, and one of the major complaints across the political divide, across the constituencies and divisions, are roads. And it doesn't matter if it's an NWA road or a parish council road, roads are roads. And so I still don't think that there's an adequate amount in the budget to satisfy the infrastructural work that is critical. So the first question I have is, perhaps, is this fixed? Because I know over the years, Mr. Hunter has said that This is a drop in the bucket, and it doesn't seem to be increasing exponentially over the years. So the first question, is there a real mechanism to address the shortfall in fixing the secondary roads? The other one I want to ask you is in the public bodies. And I want to turn your attention to the National Housing Trust. Over the years, just come here, Denise.
So remember, the challenge I would have with that one is that the National Housing Trust is under OPM, not MEGJEC. But I could address the road one if you're so minded.
If I would like to,
Sure.
because I think it is critical. And my apologies, Madam Chair, for not dealing with it that way. But over the years, if you look at the operating expenses of the National Housing Trust in the public bodies book, and I can take you to it, you're projecting to make about 48 billion this year, but your operating expenses are 28 billion. So over the years, the operating expenses of the National Housing Trust is very, very high. It's more of a policy question, because if you're looking at what the Housing Trust is building in the public bodies book, it's about 3,800 housing solutions. And based on what it is doing currently, it even seems like an inefficient bank the way it is operating. And if you're doing the math and prorating what the cost is to build a solution, or for those 3,800 approximate this year, which it projects to build, it's about 14 billion. So I'm asking you, is there any real strategy to make it a more efficient organization? Because if you're projecting to make that much money, 48 billion, and you're only projecting to build approximately 3,800 solutions this year, we have to find a way, Minister, to make it more of an efficient body, because the operating expenses are also too high. It's about 28 billion. So I leave that with you, because if you do the math, it looks like an inefficient bank, and I would love to figure out, how is the Housing Trust now comparable to commercial institutions in terms of what they're lending, what they're building, etc. So that is my concern. It's my concern as a citizen, and it's my concern as just someone who wants to see the Housing Trust do better. So those are my two issues, Minister.
Member, to the first question, I think it is impatient to debate that the amount required to maintain secondary roads would probably need another zero, based on what we would have all seen from our recent traversing of the country. The largest attempt to address it that I'm aware of will be done through the SPARK program. One of the elements that we expect to come as an output of the SPARK program, and certainly the work of our spatial data management unit at the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, will be a true registry of all roads, pathways, whether it is NWA roads, parish council roads, farm roads, pathways, community roads, etc. We expect to, through the work of our spatial data management unit, and indeed through the SPARK program, to get that singular registry that will at least allow us to schedule works when they should be scheduled. The allocations will obviously still have to grow, even with what we've allocated with the SPARK program, which is a massive allocation over the next 2 years. That will have to become a regular allocation if this item of maintenance of secondary roads is to truly achieve what the people want. So there is no illusion that this line item is indeed not sufficient to deliver what is required, though it is it's still from our budget a large allocation. But the SPARK program will address that, and I think in the course of the budget debate, significantly more details will come on the SPARK program.
It's very difficult, member. What you're going to need to do, turn off your mics, please. So in respect of follow-up question, members, once you have the mic on, don't switch your mic off until you're comfortable with the response of the minister. Otherwise, we have to go through the round yes, of turning the mics back on in the order. No, not necessary. We have turned off everybody's mic. So go ahead, member.
Minister, is perhaps a suggestion could be made for this sectoral debate? Since it is so impatient from both sides, is there a mechanism that the Parliament could probably come together? Because every year we still talk about setting the budget before and then having the sectoral debate after. Can you and your ministry, apart from the Sparks program, because the Sparks program is one important and critical factor of it, but we have to find a mechanism to not go into next year with the same problem. So is there a mechanism that we could probably, or your cabinet, or maybe increases next financial year? And that there's no division. So the NWA needs to be funded appropriately.
So, member, the concerns are noted. I do believe that the era post the Spark program will see those allocations become mainstreamed once that directory of our listing, rather, of all roads is indeed compiled in a manner and examined in a manner that will allow not just the Parliament but all citizens to look at it and to have their voices heard. But I will pass on the suggestion to the Prime Minister on your behalf. As it relates to the earlier question, the point I was making, member, is that because NHT is under the office of the Prime Minister and I don't have visibility, it would be difficult to speak on it. But I have noted the questions asked and will pass on to the Prime Minister.
So,
Member Hilton, you are not first in line.
thank you.
So turn your mic off.
Thank you.
Are you finished, member?
Madam Speaker, one additional point.
At the same time, so I'm not sure what's happening.
Pardon me?
I was asking for permission to make one additional point to the earlier query.
All right, so members, could you be so kind as to turn off your mic? I've already identified the order in which you had your mics on. Once you keep turning on ahead of the other individuals, then we're going to keep having a musical chair. So allow Minister to finish. The next person is Member Phillips, then Member Montague, then Member Robinson, and then Member Hilton. Please turn your mics on in that order. Oh, you? I didn't see you. My apologies. When did you turn your mic on, member? Long ago? That wouldn't be true, member.
So,
is it okay?
Madam Speaker, just to complete that point, my understanding is that the instruction from the Prime Minister through the Permanent Secretary to the NWA is that post the Spark program, that 20 billion figure is to be allocated to the maintenance of secondary roads as a line item going forward.
So moving forward, we'll see $20 billion in that line item for road maintenance going forward?
That's my understanding.
All right. Well, I'm happy to hear that because I was just going to raise the issue to find out if Spark is going to be a continued program or is it just a 2-year program? Because even after the 2 years, the whole issue of road maintenance will become an issue. Even after we do all this work through the Spark, then there has to be a way in how it is that we maintain our roads. And we can't act fast enough in getting that registry put together, be it municipal council roads or national works agency control roads, because there's no formal mechanism in how it is now that we maintain roads. And with the budget that is given, it's just woefully inadequate for a very long time. So that's good news. I just want to...
Sorry, just on that point, member, just to note that the National Spatial Data Management Unit has already completed the work in terms of identifying the roads and creating that registry for 9 of the parishes already. So we're well on the way to ensure that the Spark program actually is able to address it, and then that registry becomes a reality.
But all right, no problem. When we get that registry, then we see how we move forward. All right. I just want to, page 67 of the public bodies, NROC, National Road Operating. There's a inflows for the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project. I'm seeing inflows of $1.3 billion. Can you state what activity is done with the perimeter road that this is a revenue of this amount for NROC? Is this a management fee? Because there's also a line item of management fees.
Sorry, could you point to exactly where you're looking at?
Page 68 in the income statement.
Remember, if we could come back to that question in a bit, just give us a few. Perhaps you could go ahead with some of the questions.
Also, in the operating expenses, when Trans-Jamaica, knowing that NROC had quite a bit of debt carrying for the construction of the southern coastal, the east-west Highway 2000, was of the impression that once Trans-Jamaica went public to the people of Jamaica through the stock exchange, that a large portion of that debt would have been taken care of from the receipt. I'm seeing here in financing costs of some $3 billion. Can you state how much is it that NROC is owing, and what is this amount for? Why we're carrying such a heavy financing cost?
So you are correct that the financing costs are associated with the bonds that would have funded quite a bit of that work.
I'm not hearing it clearly, Mr.
Sorry, you are correct that the financing costs of 3.1 billion are associated with the bonds that would have funded that work, and it has gone down from the 4.9 billion that would have been represented this year. We expect that to continue to go down in line with the transfer of the assets and repayments from Trans-Jamaica.
Are you able to say how much, once we had put the East-West Trans-Jamaica to make it a public entity through the stock market, how much of those bonds were paid down from the receipt of, and how much is it that we're still holding?
So, member, unfortunately, I'm not able to say that now, but I think it's a reasonable query, and we'll write to you with the answers.
Yes, because this is still a heavy financing cost coming back from...
Reasonable query, member, but I'm unable to answer, so we'll write to you with the answers.
All right. Are you able to answer the original question of the 1.3 billion.
Similarly, member, I'll write to you with the answers before the close of the week.
Okay. Just finally on the Comfort Road in Southwest.
The Comfort Road that was raised as an issue by member Cousins as being damaged by check. It is the matter was investigated, and it was not found that check would have dealt with the damages associated with Comfort Road, whereas it was found that, for instance, Fogar Road was damaged by check. That was indeed repaired by same. It was by heavy equipment associated with other activities, in many cases private sector activities, that would have damaged the Comfort Road. We expect that it will be dealt with through the Spark program, but it was not damaged during the check construction.
Okay. Just since I have you on the NWC, there has been a project that's been on the table for over 2 years now. The Union to Comfortall, Evergreen, Oxford, that was supposed to be financed through the Caribbean Development Bank, I think it was. Community consultations have been kept. We haven't seen any movement on that project over the last 2 years.
So the CDB loan has finally been signed. It has gone through the PIAB process. We expect to complete the design work for that project this year out of the $85 million allocation for the CDB projects to rural water specifically.
So that we expect that to probably start in the next financial year then?
I would expect so, because the design work should be complete. That would allow us to go to tender this year.
So, all right. The issue, are we now able to start on the Greater Mandeville water supply, the one from Greenvale up to Kingsland? Because that should have started from June of last year. Got correspondence that should have started already, and we have not seen any movements by a second contractor.
The contract was awarded, and my understanding is that there were issues with the contractor bond, but we expect that to be...
That is for the second contractor? Yes. Or for the first?
Second contractor, but we expect that matter will be resolved in a matter of weeks.
And let me just ask, on that same trunket line that is going to be replaced between Greenvale and Kingsland, the main trunket line passes on the main road, but none of the communities, neither in southern Manchester, the left side of the Spur Tree Road, what we would refer to as Spur Tree Road, or on the right-hand side, which is northwest Manchester, none of those communities have any piped water, but the main trunket pass through their community. Will that be a part of this program in getting water into those communities, seeing that we are now going to be digging up the main road?
So upon completion of the work at the Pepper Wells, there will be sufficient source water. The inadequacy of piping in these communities is well known and documented and impatient of debate. We expect upon the completion of the Pepper Well upgrades that we'll be able to do that piping work that will connect both constituencies and the communities after that area.
No, but while we're digging up the road surface now, are we going to be at least taking those mains, taking it off the main, at least to send it so that we don't have to dig up the road again?
Yes, that is the intention.
The spark.
Yes, that is the intention, and the pipes are in stock and were delivered last year, out of last year's pipe purchase.
No, that's for the main.
No, for the distribution lines.
For the distribution
lines, okay. The pipes associated with those elements of the project are already in. We're already in receipt of those pipes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Members, just a word of caution. We have been giving a lot of latitude today. The Standing Finance Committee really requires that you refer to the budget page and direct your questions accordingly to items that either were there before, no longer present in the budget, that you would like to find out what was the policy decision in removing them, or for items that are being added. And to get further clarification, if we continue like this, we will be here for a very long time. In an hour, we will take a half an hour break, and we would want to be able to take it when the next ministry is finished. Next member is Member Montague.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Minister, I have 4 questions that will cover NWC, NWA, rural water, land agency, and housing agency, so you can get your mind in view. Number 1, Minister, the Mason Hall and Wentworth water projects. I don't know if you are in a position to give us an update on these projects or a start date. As you know that the Mason Hall project has been around since 2007.
Elements of the Mason Hall water project will commence in less than 2 months, Minister. There are elements that are tied to the CDB funding, but certainly some of the distribution network will commence in 2 months. The other elements, we expect to complete the design work associated with same this year. You know that project will last some 24 months from commencement to completion.
And the Wentworth piping project, sir?
The Wentworth piping project will start this year, but not in 2 months. I'll be able to give you a firm date in another week or so.
Thank you. Minister, on the Water Commission, the Geisel water scheme has been one that has been out there. I don't know if you have any plans to upgrade or to expand the Geisel water plant.
Minister, the long-standing issue related to the extraction license has been, I'd say, the sticking point with commencing the expansion, the needed expansion for Geisel. I believe we're in a better place to resolve that now. But again, in a couple of weeks, I will give you an answer related to Geisel.
I believe the people from underground is here.
From WRA?
Yes, they are here. And I believe Mr. Clark should be able to advise, because the people in Jeffreytown and Heartlands and Waterford and Springfield and Decoy, Maidenhall and Wallingford,
Mr. Clark did express
Carter
concern.
Mountain and Spring Garden.
Mr. Clark did express significant concern in the preparation session for Standing Finance Committee related to same, which is why we're doing the studies now. And we'll be able to update in a couple of weeks in terms of when and how we'll be able to address Jeffreytown, etc.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you. Remember, I indicated I had 4 questions. With regards to the NWA, Minister, on the river training, I see $62 million allocated. And I wanted to know if the Tiber River in Western St. Mary is involved in that, because there are about 4 business places and about 10 houses that are in danger of collapsing in the river. And the NWA teams have
Member
visited.
Montague, remember, yes, I just gave a directive.
Yes, ma'am, and I said it is $62 million has been allocated in the budget. All I wanted to know if this river is in the schedule. It's not in his division. It's not in his division. that is in Councillor Hutchinson's division.
Member, yes, it is not currently in the schedule for this financial year, but Mr. Hunt has given his commitment to examine it.
Okay, sir. With regards to rural water, Minister, I don't know if you have an update for us for the Springfield Source, Mile Gully, and the Brookway. And I believe I see, yes, just above Retreat and below Gale. I think you are very familiar with the place. I know you would not be, but you are familiar with Retreat, I am sure. I know that you are one of Retreat's favorite daughters.
Member, the project is budgeted this year in the allocations to rural water and is budgeted at $7.6 million for Fallen Spring Brockway.
Thank you very much, sir. With the last question, the NWA has a property in Decoy. Well, the Decoy property, I think it's about 400 acres. And the development had a reserve for housing. And the community has been pressing to have that bit of land released so that they can acquire lots in there, because the community is what is called a one-sided community. The property has one side of the whole district and the other side of the road has people things. So they wanted to know if and when, and if there's any plans in this year's budget to treat with the Decoy property and the housing reserve. NWA, NLA is the owner.
So we're aware of it, member, but there's no plans in this year's budget to deal with it. But we will take a look at it and get back to you as to when we can look at that one.
And the final thing, sir, is the Eden Park development, which was done by the Housing Agency of Jamaica. And it was absent of pipes. A contract was issued just before COVID. It had to be suspended. And the housing scheme is without pipes. And I would like to know, well, they started the project, would like to know if in this year's budget, if there's funds in there to complete the water supply to the Eden Park housing project.
Yes, member, it is budgeted for completion for this financial year.
And with regards to last thing, and I'm gone, looking at the budget for the NWA, I see $508 million for island-wide mitigation. Is that the Christmas work or is that for hurricane?
Primarily for hurricane work, member.
So there is no allocation for island-wide mitigation in December and emergency employment?
That will come later in the year, Minister.
Thank you, sir.
Member Robinson.
Madam Chair, I'm on page 19,012 in the big book, social housing. The government has delivered 200 social housings over a 5-year period from 2018, which averages about 40 per year. You're projecting to deliver 500 in the next financial year, 24-25. I want to know what the basis of the assumptions are, which involves increasing the delivery by tenfold in 1 year. That's my first question.
So, remember, the process actually started in 2020-2021 budget year, so it's not a 5-year-old program. But the expectation to increase the volume of houses delivered are related to a framework agreement that we intend to put in place, as well as a change to the building modality that is being used or has been used since that period.
Can you elaborate on both for me, please?
So related to the framework agreement, the final administrative hurdles are being worked out with the Ministry of Finance, and we'll announce that shortly. We'll be using as it relates to the building methodology, we'll be using far more pre-form than the methodology that has been used previously to ensure that we're able to deploy faster.
I support this program, but I've struggled with it as an MP. The people who need the houses in my constituency come across one main hurdle. They have no proof of ownership of land, neither can they get any letter from any person to say, having been on land for many years, that the land belongs to them. In many cases, these are government-owned land. So for me personally, I haven't been able to benefit from one because of that impediment. So I want to know what is being done to address that, because the ones most in need have that issue.
The land tenure issue is impatient to debate, and I share the concern. It is something that the Prime Minister will speak to in his budget contribution significantly.
You're not next member. However, Member Hilton may want to yield to you.
So, just to one other point, member, to your earlier question, the program will also accommodate government lands in your constituency, if you're able to find, that we can look at specifically for you.
Minister, I think you should repeat that response for the benefit of the public and members of parliament in here, because that is a concern for many.
One of the already articulated measures to deal with it is that if members of parliament identify government lands within their constituencies that are suitable for that, it is something that we will look at and do the appropriate transfers to facilitate those housing units.
Allow me to, so I have a number of people who are, if you want to call the term, not regularized on government-owned land. The challenge with it is that it is multiple people. So whereas you may identify one, you can't make that one person get a nice, pretty social house in the midst of what you might call an urban tenement. So the challenge with it is if you're going to address one, you would have to have a more holistic problem. But you know, the reason I question the estimate of 500, until you deal with the land tenure issue, you can't speed up the amount that needs to be delivered. And the need is there. But solving the land tenure issue is long-standing, and it is protracted, but it's something we have to address if we're going to deliver these houses.
So just that there's agreement that has to be resolved, and that is a part of how we've estimated that we'll achieve 500, and the Prime Minister will speak to it.
Minister, I'm my own man. Minister, I want to inquire about the proposed government center in Old Harbour. Is that still on?
Proposed what? Sorry,
The proposed government development, that center, is that still on?
So I'm advised, member, that there is money for the consultation and technical designs in this year's budget.
That the what?
That there's funds in this year's budget for consultation and designs.
So are we concluded the transfer of lands? Because naturally we have to conclude the transfer before we talk about design, don't we?
So it is not yet concluded, member, but the expectation is it will be concluded this
So
year.
there's no chance of government scrapping that proposal and plan?
There is no intention to scrap
All right,
that project.
as long as you don't scrap it.
Minister, I just want to make an appeal. While I was here, I just got a text from some businesses from Spanish Town Road about the Spanish Town Road itself, that it needs to be resurfaced. There's been a lot of road work on it, and it needs to be resurfaced.
Thanks, member.
We had spoken to that earlier, that it will be dealt with under the NWA portion of the Spark program from 6 Mile going straight through.
No more, James. You're serious? Yep, are you playing? Serious? Oh, turn on your mic then. Member Robinson. Robertson. Member Robertson.
Thank you. The NWA this morning reported that 11 packages have been completed I may not have been paying attention. I would like to know what the reference to the 11 packages, what line item it is, since I can't find it. And I'm not saying it's not there. I would just like a little help. And I have 5 questions, and this is the beginning of the 5. I asked you to help me earlier this morning, and you said no.
On page 19,000C13, the Southern Coastal Highway project is addressed. The allocations related to same are $6.297 billion to deal with those 5 outstanding packages.
Yeah, but the 11 are specific to, you would have to get the help from Mr. Hunter behind to know which 11 are completed. I'm aware of maybe 1 or 2 that have been opened and handed over recently, and I must tell you, I'm very impressed with those 2. But there is a 9 left that we need to identify if those are completed, if those are handed over, and let's be specific, because I have to answer to the people in West St. Thomas for a little longer, as long as I decide. And they told me that recently. And Mr. Paulwell will tell you that they did say so emphatically. Though they're searching for the answer, and I'm not wasting time. I can keep quiet.
The information from the NWA member is that those 9 packages are substantially completed. And we'll provide the list to you after.
Substantially completed. Earlier, the indication and the report to Parliament was that they are completed. The people listening and watching here would hear a report being made in Parliament and a member of Parliament who they have put a lot of faith in sat and said nothing. I am saying now, I accept and have knowledge of only 3 packages being substantially completed, and I drove on them up to late last night.
So, my information, Minister, is that substantial completion refers to 95% completion of the contract as was issued for these packages.
I can understand that, Minister, but when you use terms like 95% completed, it means expenditure. What the people of Jamaica are looking forward to is 95% to 100% service from the road, service from the water supply, reliability. That's what they're looking for. It is service delivery. And we have to be very careful that we speak in language that we all can relate to. We have concerns that stem from the environmental issues, such as 15 to 17% water rainfall last year in February in some of those areas. We have new pipelines installed, Mr. Mikhail Phillips, we are impressed. But we also have water systems we have not been able to put into those new pipelines because the flow of water can't charge them. So rural water is here. We have a join-up government that's doing very well. As MP, I have very little complaints. But when we come here, we have to be very specific and understand and responsive. So on the 11 packages that are over 95% completed, when do you think the National Work Agency will be able to meet with the community and hand over those packages? Because at this time, there are major concerns on a lot of them. I don't mind if you come on me, because when I speak to them, they don't answer. And you're not there to shield them anymore.
We expect the contractors to hand over these packages to the NWA at the end of March, and then the defects liability period will kick in. As to when specific ceremonial handing over will take place, that is to be determined.
Will there be any meetings with the communities before that process takes place, as there was consultations done before they commenced. And I must tell you, the consultations were done.
Yes, member, there will be meetings with the community.
Thank you. I want to turn to rural water. The hills of the east, the supplies are mainly rainfall, catchment, and flow distribution lines. Is there any concerns of how we are going to put in place new systems, new policies? I am fully aware that these areas will not accept being dams being built. Is there something that you have in mind in rural water to deal with these issues, and specifically Penline, Minto, Hagley's Gap? Because there we have 2,000 to 3,000 residents without a proper water supply.
So generally it is accepted that rainwater harvesting will be a part of the water fix for several communities that will augment existing supplies and in cases provide supplies where none exist. One should recall, member, that we tabled the rainwater harvesting guidelines, gazetted rainwater harvesting guidelines for communities earlier this financial year. In our budget item, and I'll look for it and tell you where it is, we have $250 million allocated for the purchase of some 10,000 water tanks, which will be distributed evenly across constituencies. The expectation, this is a different project than the pilot project for the rainwater harvesting, which is being done in the 14 hardest hit 14 hardest hit constituencies from last year, which is going on now. But we do expect to distribute some 10,000 of the Prime Minister's 50,000 target tanks this year, which we know will give some assistance. As it relates to that, Mr. Thompson. The Penline system is not currently in the budget, member, but we will do an assessment of it and look and see how quickly we can move to handle that.
Thank you, Minister. And Minister, just for clarity, you did indicate, and we are... Thank you. And Minister, you did indicate that there are 2 water tank projects that we will be benefiting from.
So Western St. Thomas is already benefiting from the pilot project, which includes
very true, sir. Yes, and thank you.
The installation of those tanks and the accompanying rainwater harvesting system, the guttering, etc. The additional tank allocation this year sees an allocation of some 158 tanks to each member of parliament. Now, the issue was not so much whether or not to make further allocations, but our experience from this pilot is the inability of the local market and even local distributors to increase the volume of tanks that we'd be able to distribute. We do not believe the market would be adequately able to respond to more than 10,000 being purchased from the government.
Thank you, Minister. And I must tell you that we appreciate what you are doing. I'm not winding up. I have 3 questions left. I must indicate there is a bridge that went down in Mahogany Vale. In Gordon Town 3 years ago, there was a major breakaway after rainfall and the bridge stopped construction. I need to know what is holding this up, because it is threatening the lives of a lot of people, and the National Work Agency has had procurement out of the way for almost 5 years. No, the money didn't go to Gordon Town. It is the National Work Agency letting down a lot of us.
Member,
I'm listening, sir. I'm ignoring that.
The advice I have from NWA is that because the contract would have lapsed for the period,
The contract
is
lapsed?
still dated. So the contractor is being re-engaged, and it is to go to cabinet this year to allow for continuation of the works.
So let me ask another question. The $40 million projects, some constituencies are finished. In West St. Thomas, one has started, but both are not completed, and I've been waiting on that and a proper answer for quite a while. I drove on the roads in Landway, Ramble, where I'm from, last night at 9, 10 o'clock, and I can tell you, it would have been good if they were out the way and finished.
So member, my information is that all projects from this 40 million allocation will be finished this financial year. I'm looking for your specific constituency to be able to.
West St. Thomas, the one Mr. Powell says is the best performing constituency in Jamaica recently.
So one procurement is completing, as you mentioned. Work would have started in relation to the Landui Ramble Bridge Clinic. The tender evaluation was completed at the end of January, so that is going through the completion of the contracting process and should start soon.
And the contractor is?
Can't
disclose, no problem. Well, I have no knowledge of this, and I can tell you from knowledge up to 12 o'clock last night, nothing has started there. Landway Ramble.
It hasn't started yet. Remember saying the tender evaluation is complete and they're completing the contracting process.
The last question, river training. I would contend that West St. Thomas has the most challenging conditions, rivers, gullies, water systems. Danvers Pen, we were lucky recently. We never had massive loss of life. What are we doing? What have we done in the short term, immediate, emergency work to secure and protect the lives of the people in Danvers Pen?
So, remember that is not on the budget for this year, but I have noted the concern and will refer it to the Prime Minister.
Do you still have a question, member? Could you turn your mic on, please?
Good afternoon, Minister, and to your persons from the ministry. My question specifically surrounds water, and in particular water in the area, the resort town of Negril. For the past, I would say 4 or 5 months, we have had chronic water issues. When it's not failure in pumps, it is a low production or decline in water supply. We have seen where over the past few weeks, it has got very, very bad, where some hoteliers are now have to resort to chucking up water. And I am aware that there's a project, it was announced by the Honorable Prime Minister, for a water project to help the Negril area, which will see a major pipeline running from Roaring River into Negril. The residents would like an update on that particular project. While it's long-term and it's a significant investment, it's something that we would want to see happen in the very short term, as it is affecting the resort community significantly. So, Minister, if you could just give us an update for the benefit of the persons in the area, the resort town of Negril. Thank you.
Thank you, member. The Tanglewood system is seeing inflows of less than 50%. Lagwood system is seeing inflows of less than 50%. That system, as it stands at 100%, is not sufficient to deal with the Negril area. To the broader issue, which is the Roaring, the Roaring River to Negril pipeline is a major infrastructure investment that we expect to be before PIAB in very short order. It is not a long-term project. It's a project we intend to do this year and to start with this year. It represents a clear and present danger to the stability, the social stability of the area, as the pipe there is both inadequate and for all intents and purposes porous. So between the line from Martha Brae into St. James and the Roaring River into Westmoreland will be done this year, and we expect to be in front of PIAB soon.
Head 19,000, Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, pages 1 through 19. Those in favor? Head 19,000C, pages 1 through 37 for CapEx. Those in favor? Head 19046, Forestry Department, pages 1 through 6. Those in favor? Head 19047, National Land Agency, pages 1 through 8. Those in favor? Head 19048, National Environment and Planning Agency, pages 1 through 11. Those in favor? Head 19050, pages 1 through 8 for the National Works Agency. Those in favor? Let me thank the Economic Growth and Job Creation Ministry for their marathon 2 hours and 5 minutes with the Standing Finance Committee today. Have a good day. Team, thank you very much for being here.
Always, Minister.
Members, for those who have finished, we would like to now invite in the Ministry of Local Government. Those who are still mulling around, could you please take your leave and take your conversation outside? Please take your leave, take your
Big Mama, the
conversation
host, but
outside.
we will let this take us right up into drive time London. It's important to keep
Marshall,
an
could you
eye
invite in the Ministry
on
of
what is going on
Local
in
Government?
Parliament at the moment. I am also cooking my dinner. Yes, I'm frying my fish and cooking my dinner, but I'm almost done. So this will take us right up into drive time London. I know this can be boring for some of you, but after all, they run our affairs. So we
Thank you for your
must
patience.
get
Local
with the
Government and
politics,
Community Development,
get involved in it,
please take your
and
seat.
be politically educated so we stop getting fooled
Let me
year in,
thank
year out.
the Minister of Local Government and Community Development, along with his team from the ministry. Minister, you may go right ahead and either do your preamble or request that questions be given to you immediately.
Madam Chair, I would rather we go straight into the proceedings. so as to facilitate the other ministries which are present, Madam Speaker. Madam
Thanks, Minister.
Chair. 50? All right.
Yeah, 50. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Try to be as
Yes, dinner is
efficient
welcome.
as we
We're
can
doing
with
fish
time,
and hard food.
but to try
Fried
to get
fish
the
and hard
answers that we can for the people who deserve it. Minister, I am concerned for you because I feel like you're getting basket to carry water. Yes, my concern for you. Because what you are promising to deliver to the people, with this budget, you're not going to be able to. And so you're going to have to help us to understand today how you plan to deliver the services required at the local level to the people at this time. I'm seeing that in quite a few areas you have had some reduction in the budget. And in other areas, you are completely flat. When there is absolute need for an increase in your budget at this time to encourage participatory democracy and to improve the service delivery at the local level. Minister, I want to start with the effective solid waste management that is going to be required for the country at this time. And that you are looking at in actual revised estimates in 2023-24 of some $6.8 billion. But for this 24-25 period, you're at $4.8 billion. Of that amount, what percentage will go towards actual public cleansing is one question I'd like to ask. I'd like to also ask how many trucks we now have that are functional, currently working. That should include the 50 that you have just purchased. And what, in your estimation, based on your studies and your experience, would be the actual requirement to clean Jamaica at this time? How many?
All right. Just to start at the tail of your question. It would require a solid fleet of over 150 trucks to deal with the garbage situation collectively across the country. Presently, there are about over 90 trucks in the fleet, and the additional.
I'm not sure I'm following. You would need 150 trucks total for the entire country?
90 is currently on the road. There's a 50 trucks coming in. It would take the organization over 150 trucks to respond, along with the private trucks to deal with the collection of garbage across the country.
But
That is your question.
It would therefore mean, Minister, that you are almost at what you need.
No, but you must also remember there's wear and tear. Service, vehicles have to be taken.
No, that's what I asked. The question I asked was how many are currently functional of the total that you need, and how many more will you need to complete what you're going to require?
So again, we have just under, call it 100 functional trucks. And we're talking about government-owned vehicles, okay? That are owned by the National Solid Waste Management Authority.
Right.
Plus what we have supplementing in terms of the private trucks in the system.
Right. So the question was, based on that assessment, to include privately owned trucks and what you currently have as your fleet, what in your estimation is the requirement of the government to be able to have on this road at this time to keep Jamaica clean?
150 reliable trucks are member. and I use the word reliable, because the support that we get, not all the trucks operate in an effective and efficient way.
So if 100 are functional now and you're getting another 50, it means that you're going to be at optimal performance and Jamaica will be spanking clean in a short while.
Yeah, but remember, you know,
I'm asking.
Remember, you are aware that if we give every community in Jamaica a truck, if the minds of the Jamaican people still remains the same, we dispose of our garbage. You must understand and appreciate that there's a fundamental problem in some areas. And let me make the point that it's not all of Jamaica is dirty. The majority of Jamaica is clean. Not all of Jamaica is dirty, and we must dismiss that myth that the entire country is dirty and stink and nasty. It is not true.
And some communities,
it is not true.
I accept that, Minister, and I didn't suggest that all of it is dirty. I'm suggesting, though, well, I'm not suggesting, yes. I'm indicating clearly that there are some communities that really have not had garbage collection in quite some time, right? Because we don't include them necessarily in the schedule of communities. Those rural communities, for example, who don't get regular garbage collection and are still utilizing unsafe practices to dispose of their garbage, right? They're burning at every opportunity, which is unsafe for our environment as well. What is it that is in place to expand the service so that rural communities can be incorporated in a more structured way? And I don't mean when the MP calls. I mean that people can know from day to day what day of the week garbage will be collected, and that they can put that garbage out, containerized, and I agree with you, containerized so that it can be picked up.
Remember, the organization now working on a comprehensive program that will incorporate more communities. As a matter of fact, since 2016, quite a number of several communities have been added to the list that never had garbage collection before. This is being looked at and being expanded. So it is going to be difficult for me to answer outright the amount of communities, but to say to you that the entity is cognizant of the demands and is presently working on a structure which will look at an whole comprehensive approach, including public education, sensitization, town hall meetings, going into various communities, working with the SDC to create that program of taking the importance of proper garbage disposal to various communities.
How many private trucks are now contracted, Minister?
About 80 private trucks.
All right. So about 80 private trucks.
Yes.
And you have 100, and you are expecting another 50.
But the private trucks doesn't work every day, because remember, they do have other contracts with other entities. So we do not have the benefit of all of those units on a daily basis.
But that's why I'm worried, because your budget is not reflecting the need for a greater focus on garbage collection. What about our disposal sites? Where are we with those disposal sites that are now at capacity? And I know that we have had several discussions about privatization and relocation and so on. Where are we with the disposal sites and our plans, if any?
There are only two sites that would come to mind as it relates to that question. White Horses in St. Thomas. It would be good to advise you that the lands for the relocation of the White Horses location have been purchased, and they are now proceeding to put things in place for the relocation of of Church Corner. But you must also remember, that is going to take some time for the relocation to be completed. But
What is your estimate of that time?
well, it is not something that you can give an estimate on, because remember now, you have to remove the existing stuff from that location. They have already started to remove stuff, taking it in from St. Thomas into Kingston. That was started some time ago. So the work on that is advanced. And the one in Portland, the location is still being sought out, because it is difficult in terms of the areas that was identified. The NEPA raised concerns about the location and the effects on
And the stuff that you're moving, where in Kingston is it being moved to?
the location at Riverton.
Good. So
It
what
is the
are the,
largest of the sites we have.
good. What are the plans for Riverton?
Well, remember now, the divestment of the entire solid waste system is way down the line. Already locations have been identified for the new sites across the country. The environmental studies and everything has been completed. And the wind up, the phase one was completed in 2022, where that phase of the assessment was done. So that is taking shape. And at some point in time, member, a proper update will be given to the House as to where we are in terms of the divestment of the national solid waste responsibility into the areas that the government announced some time ago.
The separation at source,
Yes.
for me, is a sore point in Jamaica's waste disposal system. That we are not efficiently encouraging and promoting recycling as a real effect of getting our garbage disposal and collection under to a manageable level. Where are we with the actual recycling process?
Very good question. There are more than 100 communities right across Jamaica now that is practicing that separation of garbage in terms of that plastic separation. And we'll be rolling it out right across Jamaica. When we get some new trucks, the tipper trucks, that will help to facilitate, because the public has been calling. There's also the separation of the electronic waste. That in itself is working, and is working very good. So we are expanding on the separation of garbage. It is working, as I said before, in over 100 communities across Jamaica, and we extend to roll that out to include another 150 communities until we can spread it right across the country.
I hear you, Minister. I am wondering how well we are doing with the public education process, because I'm not sure that Jamaicans are yet understanding the importance of it, and that we have a responsibility as government to provide the information as to how this affects them and their lives in their community.
Remember, I must tell you that I will agree that there's not a real expansive public education, but I can tell you that a number of Jamaican communities have been calling. They know what is happening. The solid waste has been out there with a program. We are going to be expanding that, putting some significant money into the public education, because I think that is going to be critical, not just on radio, but as I said earlier on, to get into the communities within the citizens association groups and other such stakeholders about the whole question of the separation and the disposal of garbage. And I'm committing that you will see a comprehensive rollout of that program.
I'm worried though, Minister, that
Yes.
there's a ban on plastics, right? So we can't use the single-use disposable bags anymore. We can't use plastic straws anymore. But the plastic bottles are everywhere and they block up everything. Where are we with plastic bottles?
Member, it is important that this honorable house and the country is made aware that tons of plastic bottles are removed on a daily basis. I mean, the significant amount. You go into communities, you find communities. And RPG has been working on the collection. There's a lot of plastics, but I can say that the entity has been doing well. And there are several communities across Jamaica that are responding in a positive way as it relates to the plastic. We're going to get there, but it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. The same way in which we were able to capture the tires in a way, to control the used tires, that was done.
I still never understood the straw as opposed to the bottle, but perhaps I'm not so.
Well, it is all a part of the waste.
I'm not so convinced that the straw as opposed to the bottles would have made a significant impact that we would have wanted, because certainly what I see everywhere, from beaches to gullies, to drains, to community sidewalks, are plastic bottles. All right. Minister, I wanted to just move your attention quickly to a matter relating to the rural water supply and the woeful underfunding that goes to municipal corporations to maintain minor water supply, and that our entombed springs are in terrible condition, that I don't believe that we are given enough focus on the community sources and the treatment of that water which our people consume at the minor water supply level. Where are we with expanding that process? How are we incorporating the municipal corporations in a greater way to work closer with rural water supply to develop small sources or smaller sources so that people can look forward to stop carrying water in 2024? How much closer are we today?
When rural water came to local government, we had developed this relationship. I can speak glowingly to Westmoreland, where the project that entombment that you just spoke about, we initiated a number of projects in Westmoreland using the same method that was used. We have been providing more money for minor water to the municipal corporations.
Would you say it's enough, Minister?
No, and it would never.
Because the sources are really bad.
And it would never be enough.
Right. Would you say, well, is it even part really? The sources are so bad that I really and truly hope that you will look at increasing the budget to the municipal corporations, because water, if it is indeed life.
I know that, and that is why outside of the springs that existed, we created the water shops, because we will never be able, member, and I have heard someone said criticizing us for building water shops, which I found very unfortunate, because water shops provide a source of water to communities that will never for now have access to pipe water. So we have expanded that, and we have been working with rural water to develop and to give to us the areas. And we have been working, if you go to a community like Chambers Pen in Hanover, one of the pilot projects under the rural development. We have initiated that project, and we are the one in St. Thomas, Cheswick. Cheswick in St. Thomas is another such community.
I'm hearing you, Minister, and I know that you have some faith in the water shops. I really don't have as much as you do.
But
Primarily,
at least residents are getting water.
I understand. I understand the point you make. However, I was speaking about tapping into community sources to provide more potable water in pipes to people's homes,
example of some communities that was done.
Yeah, but based on the reduction in the funding you have received this year, I am worried about how the municipal corporations will indeed be able to maintain those that they currently have and be able to look at how we develop additional sources to provide people with the precious commodity.
I must remind you, member, that every municipal corporation prepares their budget. And in preparing their budget, they would include in their budget the areas of priorities that they want to deal with. And they would get support for the ministry, from the ministry, not for the ministry to provide, because remember now, the local authorities generate their own revenue, their own source of revenue.
I understand, Minister. We're going from 652 million down to about 100.
No, but remember now, we don't have rural water again. Huh? That is why. We remember now, rural water has gone back to economic growth, under the water ministry. So what we have in the budget is a significant increase for minor water, and it is for trucking of water, and the programs that we spoke about. The rural water is working with us to continue that program that we started in a number of communities, our member. And we have already submitted a list of areas for that to be done, to be incorporated in the wider water program.
Well, there seems to be a kind of a disconnect in terms of the communication.
No, just before you you started to present, unfortunately, Member Garvey wasn't here, so there were several questions asked of rural water, but you hadn't gotten in as yet. What we could do, Member Garvey, is to pick up the rural water questions with the minister who presented on it, Matthew Samuel.
Well, it really wasn't a rural water question specifically. It's about minor water supply, which comes out of the municipal corp. The maintenance of, it's not the same necessarily. The maintenance of those existing sources.
But you know, we still provide the funding for the operations of most of these locations. The ministry still supports the local authorities. As I said before, member, the local authorities have a responsibility in terms of their budgeting.
But then you will agree then, Minister, if the local authorities in their drive to increase their revenue, it depends on what they are collecting as taxes, right, at their base, and other innovative ways of creating revenue, right? But there has to be a more targeted approach of ensuring that the service delivery to our people becomes something that is priority for our government.
And
because the municipal corporations really are not getting enough funds to maintain and upgrade the minor water supply systems, and that is a fact.
And I would not share that fully with you, member. It is important that this House understands and appreciate that the source of revenues that comes to local government, let us say, from the consolidated fund. The main sources are three forms of taxes that we don't collect. One is the property taxes, one is the trade license, and the other is the parochial revenue fund, which are dedicated for specific programs. So the PRF deals with roads, road maintenance. 66.33% of what is collected from the proceeds of motor vehicles, license, etc.
You get more than that, though.
No, 66.33% by law. Then property taxes deals with garbage collection, street lights, deals with the salaries and everything of the local authorities, and trade license
I understand.
goes directly.
I understand.
So the point I'm making, member, and we need to have an appreciation that the local authorities themselves have a responsibility to structure their program in a way that their own source revenues can be used also to supplement the support that they get
they
from
have
the
been
ministry.
doing it, but it is still inadequate. And I know that you know that it is true. A former mayor, I know you know it is true. They're not getting enough funding to be able to adequately address
I will not,
the issues at the local government level.
Sitting where I'm sitting, I am not going to agree with you.
All right.
If you
So
say to me,
we agree to disagree on that one.
all right, fine.
All right. We agree to disagree on that one. The parochial roads.
Yes.
A sore point for all of us, especially for our country MP. Very sore point. And over time, we have witnessed, and I'm not in any way pointing fingers necessarily, but we have recognized that as MPs, as councillors, that we are not able to address the matters. And even though we might say we fixed more this year than we did last year, the truth is we're not getting the services to the people of giving them proper roads. We're not getting there. And we're not getting there fast enough, right? It is clear that the funds, once again, 355 million in 23-24 and 105 million in 24-25. It leaves me to wonder, Minister, is it that the funds have now been moved from local government to Spark? Are we sparking from the funds that were given to the municipal corporations? And I ask the question because the MCs are equipped with roads and works departments, and they are funded to be able to have the various levels of technical expertise to carry out the procurement guidelines and to ensure that works can be handled efficiently and within deadlines and within budget. However, a recent announcement by the Prime Minister indicates that we as MPs would get that 150 million
No, correction.
when I'm saying constituencies, constituencies through their members of parliament, through the CDF, and not through the municipal corporation. MPs are expected to consult
member.
with communities.
Member, you are no member.
I'm incorrect? Please correct me. Please.
Member.
Yes.
I actually chairs the committee that is dealing with the implementation of the Spark program.
Okay.
We have been meeting, and the meeting is inclusive of the local government because 15,000 kilometers of a road network across this country falls under the direct control of local government.
Absolutely.
Right. So the consultations on the roads, the database for the roads are being provided by local government. There's a meeting, we have had several meetings already looking at it. The consultations will be done jointly between members of parliament and councillors. The provisions are for divisions. So there is no bypassing of the local authorities.
No, I am suggesting, though, my suggestion, though, is that 2 Christmases ago, we were allocated $40 million per constituency to do road repairs. as a result of the slow process of.
Member, this statement has been made several times since morning, and it is not a local government question, nor is it on the local government budget.
I'm speaking about parochial
Member,
roads.
no, so it was not a parochial road, but budgeted item. So I'm just asking member.
To rephrase the question?
Yes, stick
Okay.
to the questions as it relates to the budget for local government.
Well, I was going to be speaking to the
Which the
budget of
Spark
local government.
program had, and I was hoping the minister would have gone into greater detail with the collaboration between members of parliament and councillors so that it is understood the Spark program, how it will work.
And the point I was
Instead
making,
of moving to
Madam
a program
Chair,
gone.
right, I accept. The point I was making, Madam Chair, is that we have equipped our local government, municipal corporations, with the requisite expertise to be able to do these things, and yet the Spark program, which we have been working on since 2 Christmases ago, we are still not able to get through that process. So I was wondering,
I think you're being very disingenuous.
I just want to be able to.
No, member, I cannot allow you.
I'm talking about the $40 million
No,
program.
member, I cannot allow you. Member, the $40 million
No, I'm not.
is not a local government
It
program.
is not, but I'm
I
saying
am
to you
speaking,
that
the Spark program.
Respectfully, member, allow the minister to answer. If
The
both of
Spark,
you speak,
the
at
Spark
the same time we have
program,
an issue.
the Spark program include community roads. 99% of the roads that will be affected under the Spark program falls under the local authorities. It is a join-up approach by local and central government at the level of
why are they
members
having
of parliament
that
and
particular
the councillors to deal with the roads across the country that needs to attention.
Isn't it rather confusing that she's asking the right question because the two things is linked together and they don't want her to
40
ask it?
million, which we got it was like almost 2 Christmases now. The 40 million, which each MP received, many of whom to date have not gotten more than one, some have gotten none, some have gotten all, right? But the process to get there has been overwhelming for one department, the National Works Agency. And that when I speak with the NWA, they speak to the lack of resources, human and otherwise, to be able to execute those projects within reasonable time. I'm saying here comes another project with a $150 million allocation in Spark per constituency, which is supposed to go directly towards repairing local government roads, parochial roads. I'm not seeing it in the budget at this time. But I'm taking the Prime Minister at his word. I'm not seeing it in this budget. I'm not seeing it in the roads budget either. So I am asking at this time, why is it that we would not utilize the services which currently exist at the local authorities to assist in executing?
But who said that is not being done?
And to send the funding, allow me to finish, and to send the funding through them to be able to do that work. I don't.
The compilation of the roads is being done jointly by the local authorities and the NWA, because NWA roads are going to be affected. It is a collective responsibility in preparing the mapping of the roads, doing the estimates. It is not left to one entity to do it. So it is not that the local authorities will sit aside and watch this happening. The local authorities will be fully engaged because they have been a part of the
So what's the problem about the
meeting that we have had to
question?
discuss
Sorry
the
to be
program.
butting over. What's the problem about the question with that particular money when it's going to be a joint work between local and central government? I'm not getting it.
Heading is where the chairman wants you to head. So when the Ministry of Economic Growth was here, you would have remembered that a line item for the NWA basically was 6 billion. Correct? Correct. What my colleague is referring to is that the line item for parochial roads, and you're right, because the NWA only has about 5,000 kilometers worth of road with $6 billion divided, mainly 4 billion goes to them. You're right, and she has said 15,000 kilometers of road is in the budget for 105 million only. So hang on, that's what it says. What you're saying, Minister, is that you chair a committee. This is separate from the PRF. You're saying that you chair a committee that is looking at the Sparks program. And all of us are really excited about the Sparks program, or Sparky. So it's 150 million. And what is also correct is that the minister who sat in the chair before you recognized, and the government recognized, that road belonged to Alawi, right? When you go to a constituent, you can't tell them say it belonged to the parish council and that one you belong to the NWA. It doesn't work. So what we're trying to find out is where into the budget. Hold on. Because nobody not fighting you inside here, you know. We're not fighting you. We want it to happen. But in the budget, it is inadequate what we're seeing. You're saying you chair a committee. What my colleague is saying is that based on everything that has happened so far with members of parliament at the main road level, someone will not get it. I've gotten mine, the 40 million. But the procurement, so if you're chairing the committee, is the money now available? Hold on, the minister may have some more. Is the money now available, that 150 million? Where is it in your budget, or is it coming from another ministry? 2, will the procurement be done? Is the procurement going through the ministry, the parish councils, or it's going through the NWA, or will a new oversight committee be formed to look over the Sparks program? Is it under the office of the Prime Minister? What's really your role?
The reason why the minister explained earlier on that the program, in terms of where it is now, has to go to the public procurement. It is being worked on at that level. What we are now presently doing now is paving the way for the consultations to commence, taking the roads to the community, to engage the communities in the discussions as to the roads that is intended to be facilitated under the program. The government has committed to the program. The program is going to be over a 2-year period, and that is a commitment. It is the first time in Jamaica's history that any government has attempted to undertake any project of this nature to deal with roads. So
Minister.
No, please.
Yes.
It is something that is new. Allow it to work. The system will work. It is going to be transparent. No one is going to be left behind, neither MP nor councillor. It is a program that will try to address over a period of time the road conditions right across the country.
So it is not in the local government budget. That was the question my colleague did. But you can probably direct us to where it will be.
That's what we want. Wait for Ministry of Finance. All right. Consult fund.
All right. So Minister, the process is supposed to end by, the consultation process is supposed to end by March. All of our communities would have heard that parochial roads are going to be repaired and that we are going through the process of consultation. But I haven't seen any directive from you, nothing. I have not seen a letter. I have not seen any guidelines. Not even a WhatsApp, me not get, Minister, nothing.
That question was answered, that the consultation process and the letters will come shortly. Okay? It will come shortly.
Okay, we look forward to getting those letters. All right? It will come very shortly. Yes. The fire service, they're not keeping you too long today, Minister.
Yes.
the fire services, I'm noticing a reduction in that budget as well. And I am curious to know, with the lack of hydrants across the country and people losing their homes so very rapidly, when you call the fire station, them take forever to come. When they come, in some cases, because depending on where, and I'm not saying that it is in every case, I'm saying depending on where those communities are, sometimes it takes a long time for them to get there. When they do, there's no water, right? So I'm saying in some cases, I just want to know, with the reduction in the budget, how are you going to manage to increase and improve the hydrants we have across the country? Some are there, they're not working. How are we with our audits and our repairs and installation of new hydrants?
No, the reduction that you see is not for the physical day-to-day program of the brigade. It is a special allocation that was made for the procurement of the two fire trucks that would fight fire beyond a certain height. We're building higher now, so we're equipping the brigade with trucks.
So that 70 million to 20 million reflects trucks?
What page are you?
Fire. Just go in your recording.
7,213. You can see the line item. It's by 50 million.
You have to be specific with the page, you know, for
7,000.
7,200.
72,013.
And your question?
We're asking about the reduction in the rehabilitation and maintenance of fire hydrants. Right? It's really, this one is just really towards the fire hydrants.
The reduction will not affect the ability of the Jamaica Fire Brigade to execute its function around the question of hydrants. They have stockpiled significant spare parts for hydrant, so there is no effect in this reduction that you are seeing reflected here for fire hydrants.
It is really very, I don't know, that's curious for me. Hold on. It's very curious.
The reason why you're seeing this decrease, remember, there is a significant allocation was made in 23-24, and there are significant number of hydrants. New hydrants were put in, hydrants were replaced. They are in a position that they can respond to repair fire hydrants and install new fire hydrants. So this is one area of the service that have been reliably informed by the commissioner that will not be affected because they were proactive enough in the previous budget cycle to use that money wisely.
So you're saying the 20 million that is there will be adequate to maintain the fire hydrants and to
for
put
maintenance and for service.
And for servicing.
Yes.
All right. That much in, but we have to work with it.
You know, and let me just say,
no, it
Madam
does sound
Chair,
very
no.
strange, but
no, Madam Chair.
But I believe you, Minister.
It is.
You're a genuine guy.
No,
I believe you.
look,
Member.
Shades,
it is,
shades.
You know, it is unfortunate that we try to paint a dismal picture of one of the most improved services in this country, the Jamaica Fire Brigade. And, you know, the brigade over the years have been provided with the requisite tools to respond. I mean, if you look at the evidence of last night, the response of the Jamaica Fire Brigade to the Petrojam fire speaks volume to the improvement that this administration has made to the Jamaica Fire Brigade. And while the response in certain areas might be slow. And every time they report to a fire, there is a backup unit to provide water. We have provided water tender trucks for them. And these brand new trucks that they have do not go out without water.
But Minister, I wasn't asking you about that, you know. I really asked about one line item as it
No,
relates
but
to.
you made a statement, member, for
All
me,
right.
which is unfortunate.
Okay. So I am simply saying you have indicated that the 20 million will be adequate to cover servicing and maintenance, of hydrants, right? You wanted to say something on
And
that?
that, and let me make the point that that was what was requested by the brigade.
No, I had a follow-up. Minister, let me say something, because as a member of parliament that does not have a fire station in her constituency, it's in St. Anne's Bay, the fire trucks don't come shortly to Southeast, but I really want to applaud on behalf of my colleague from St. Mary. I visited a very beautiful fire station in Port Maria, and I met the young, well, the men and women who are very diligent, and that is why it is important that they have the requisite tools to continue doing that job. And I really want to see a situation where we have fire stations in 63. That's why, Chair, when you talk about community development, there is a $10 billion allocation in there for community development. 10 billion of it goes to your fire and rescue services, and about 9 billion of that goes to operational expenses, direction and management. So when you look at 10 billion, 9 billion of which goes to operation and management, I believe that is a payment of staff, all kinds of different things.
Yeah,
what you recognize is that in your recurrent for the 20 million, the weighting, it's not that any of us here are chastising the fire service. We want it to do well, because when people come and thief goat and burn down fields, and agriculture is a big part of it in fire services. Tell us how the maths balance out. Because if you have more fire hydrants, better fire hydrants, is it that the capex or the capital expenditure of the 70 million went to buy those so you can reduce your maintenance costs? And also, what is a 9 billion for in terms of direction and under the 10 billion?
My understanding that 50 million of that was used to buy and stockpile parts.
Take me to the 9 billion now for the fire service.
Well, that is made up of salaries and maintenance of fire stations, etc. Right, across the country. So that is what it is made up of.
So you have 9 billion. Just go down on page 7213. You have the 9 billion, you have the 20 million, you have the 36 for fire vehicles. So basically, you have 56 million for the maintenance of fire hydrants and the rehabilitation of fire vehicles. And then you have the acquisition, which is 248 million. And salaries basically of 9 billion.
56 is for vehicles.
Yeah, so you have 76 million in terms of recurrent expenditure to take care of hydrants and trucks. And what we're saying is that is not enough. Based on what I know you are trying to do with fire services in this country, you and I know, and the Shadow Minister for Local Government knows that $76 million annually to maintain hydrants, fire trucks, to buy parts for fire vehicle, that's not enough. You're going to have to reallocate and recalibrate your budget.
One of the things, member, I need to point you to, the maintenance costs of the Jamaica Fire Brigade would have been significantly lower now, because over the last 5 years, they have new trucks, new fleets. They got over 30 brand new trucks within the last year and a half, not just firefighting trucks, but other trucks, which you would see a significant reduction in the maintenance costs. I could take you back 5-6 years ago when the maintenance costs of the brigade was at a level that was because the trucks were old, antiquated trucks. Now, in fairness, member, they have an upgraded fleet of trucks right across the country. And the good thing that every fire station in the country have at least
So that
one.
buys gas.
No, yes, yes.
Or 76 million.
Right. No, that is different.
As long as what
Gas falls
what,
within the part of the 9 billion.
Look,
right?
look. What? Note it.
Okay. No.
On the same matter? Okay. All right. So Minister, let's move on because we have quite a few questions to go. Not a whole lot, but a few. Our welfare systems at the parish council.
The
Welfare systems, the poor relief, the outdoor poor, and so on. The parish council, the municipal corporations continue to provide a service, but I'm seeing that you have had a reduction there in that budget as well, from 254 to 132 million. I'm just trying to figure out what it is that would account for this and what here areas will suffer as a result, or is there something else that I'm not seeing here that you can explain to me?
The only reduction in the budget for a social program is where we lost 120 million, which was given to us for the building of indigent housing.
It was for the indigent
Right.
housing, right?
So we have seen an increase in almost every area of our social services.
Except for that one.
Right. When you take that 123 out, we got that as a special allocation for indigent
Understood,
housing.
Minister. I have one concern. When a community health aide goes out to visit a home, they usually go in pairs or in threes or whatever. When the poor relief officer goes out, they go out as one person, and it's a lot. It's a lot because when they do go, oftentimes they have to address matters, and I speak to my poor relief officer frequently. When she goes into a community by herself, it's a most strenuous exercise because she's not able to help with even the simplest of things. Sometimes she's there even combing the hair of those that they're caring for. She's trying to get people on the phone to get. It's really, really quite difficult. And I don't know that it is the safest way either, because some communities are quite violent. Just to suggest that we perhaps would look at the possibility of having them go out in pairs rather than as individual office. I know that you probably would have to look at a greater level of staffing, maybe assistant officers or whatever it is, but I worry for them. Has there been any consideration for that?
Yeah, remember, I will agree with you that the roster in terms of the number of poor relief officers right across the country has been limited, but the new classification in the local government system organizational structure provides more positions for poor relief. And we do use the youth summer employment program during the summer to supplement some of the work of poor relief by assigning some of those workers for the 6 or the 8 weeks that they work to work specifically in the poor relief. But I do agree with you, and the intention is to increase the number of poor relief officers across the country.
Okay, Minister. The SDC. And I don't want to throw anybody under the bus at all, because it's not my intention. But I'm not really feeling the effect of the Social Development Commission in our communities, right? I'm not feeling that we have given enough attention to the participatory democracy that we want to have for our people. The parish development committees, the community-based organizations, the capacity building which is required to have communities participate in a more fulsome way. Because if they are on board with the process, with the programs, with the policies, then I believe they will own them and they will respond differently, and we might have a better level of interaction at the local level. So I'm not sure, where are we with the PDCs? Where are we with, because we seem to have abandoned those organizations. Just give me an idea where we are.
You know, member, I've heard this argument about us gutting the SDC and about us abandoning the parish development committees and the CDCs. And I want to dismiss that at a rubbish and cheap propaganda. And I want to make the point, and I'm hurt when I heard it. When we took office in 2016, there was 0 item in the budget to support the SDC. 0 item in the budget for the SDC. 0. No money was provided for the SDC. The books is there. The parish development committees, and remember, I'm glad you raised it because I'm going to respond. The parish development committee was being used outside of the intended purpose of it. The funding that was provided by government to the parish development committee back then. My first experience with the parish development committee was when a member of the parish development committee called me complaining that the bank is about to repossess our car and she can't pay our mortgage because the funds that was provided to the parish development committee for the operational use was being used to supplement people's personal living. That was what we encountered in 2016. It was this administration that has structured the parish development committee.
Minister.
No, I have to respond. No, because the argument is that we have not done anything. We have restructured the parish development committee. We are providing how much on a monthly basis? $1.5 million quarterly to the parish development committees. I have
1.5 million quarterly?
Quarterly, yes.
1.5 million.
I have met with them on several occasions. There is a structure in place.
And it's functioning well.
That they are registered in the SDC because we got a position in the. It is a system that is working. What we have done is to take the politics out of the operation of the parish development committee, and I make no apology about that.
6 million annually per parish.
Minister, I understand your passion.
It is working out at $20 million.
I understand your passion.
Right? No, it's not a passion.
No,
but the mischief that is being made.
Allow me, Minister.
No, the mischief that is being made about the SDC and the parish development committee is unfounded.
The question you're robbing.
Because if the country knew that it was the SDC that did the assessment on COVID, that allowed the country to work on a program that took us through COVID, all the assessment that was used.
The Minister of Health gave them an allocation. But Minister, no, that's not where I was going, though, you know.
Come on, don't beat an organization that suffered under your administration.
I did not speak to SDC. I didn't speak to SDC as being an organization which is not important or necessary. Did not speak to it that way. What I'm speaking to is building the capacity of the SDC and the PDCs so that we can have a more inclusive structure of our people being involved
And we have been
that
doing
they
that.
can. Minister, another question. I mean, the turnover at SDC is very high. I mean, it's very high. I'm seeing the changes, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it is people move on. It could be a natural attrition. I don't know, but I seem
Takes
to
place in
there's
all,
some
right across
and
all
there's
governments.
some areas without an officer for quite some time. You know, there seem to be gaps in where they're officers for some time. It is my hope that when I bring these things to your attention, it's not, Minister, it's not for you to defend. It is for you to understand that as MPs out here, what I believe the mandate of the SDC is, I don't believe it is being fulfilled in the way that it was envisioned. And I'm suggesting to you that we just do a review of where we are and how it is that we build capacity to make them more efficient and to be able to be true partners in this business of delivering the services at the local level. The local economic development committees, what is the process at this time of our people accessing support through the LEDs?
You know, over 1,000, almost 2,000 people right across the country benefited out of that program right across the country. It was not concentrated.
And it's a good program.
Right. It wasn't concentrated. And I will agree with you that there is a review of the SDC that is presently taking place.
Thank you.
Right?
Then you could have said that from ton.
No, don't tell me about, but when the wrong information is given into the public domain, these information must be corrected because nobody have gutted the SDC. No, I have to be.
Nobody but you know, I never spoke ill of the SDC. Don't do that.
You
Minister.
never corrected.
No, I never spoke ill. I spoke about building the capacity so that it can fulfill the mandate. That's what I spoke to, right? And so if there is an additional budget for that kind of capacity building, I'm not seeing it. What I'm saying that it could be that you're thinking it's going to be next year, but I'm not seeing it for this year.
The SDC outside of its budget would get support for programs out of the ministry. Okay? So the SDC, I will agree, you know. I remember now, funding for these institutions, and the SDC is not an income generating entity. So you find there are challenges in terms of funding. But I can say to you that the SDC, in terms of its service delivery, reaching communities, is in a better place than it was some time ago.
Follow up, Madam Chair. You know, Minister, all of us are a product of the SDC. Some of the best programs that I have in my constituency are as a result of the SDC doing plans, formidable things that are there. When you look at the budget, though, 1.7 billion in the book, and you have appropriations in aid of only 22.18 million to offset some things. That's really what they're getting in terms of appropriations in aid. The rest of the money, there's no money for programs in there. A lot of that is spent on utilities, employment. So what we're saying to you, while you might be getting money from other ministries, when they come to us for CDF, my welfare program's going there.
There is an allocation for programs.
Tell me what it is.
The local development support program, the community research database.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 68 million that is there for programs. Okay. And as I said before,
68 million across 63 constituencies. Prorate that.
No, but look, remember, I am agreeing with you, you know.
Okay.
I'm agreeing with you.
I am suggesting.
Yes.
I'm suggesting. May I fight for you, Desmond?
Go ahead.
Long time.
I love you for that.
Right.
Even love you more.
You need to take that up if you really want to help constituencies deal with some of the problems you have on the ground. you need to at least prorate it to at least $10 million per constituency.
I hear you, member, and I will take that into consideration in the discussions.
That's
that
less
we are
than $1
having.
billion.
In the discussions that we are having around the
This,
review of
you
the
should really
SDC.
have $1 billion for.
Sometimes I don't understand Lisa Hannah. Lisa Hannah sit down next to,
Minister,
let me turn down the circle. Next to Desmond McKenzie opponent, and I tell Desmond McKenzie, may I fight for you, you know, Desmond. I really don't understand Lisa Hannah.
I'm a little curious. The last time you were in that seat, we spoke about rural electrification and the fact that it has now moved from local government as rural electrification and is now with the Jamaica Social Investment Fund.
No.
Right? Is it still within the ministry, right?
No.
And can you explain to me exactly how it works now?
It is now in the Ministry of Energy and Science.
Okay, it's now in Ministry.
But what we do, we still have a relationship in local government with rural electrification that we still maintain.
Okay. The housing matter. Some years, yes, sorry about that. I wasn't feeling so well this morning, Madam Chair. Please excuse me for not having been here. The housing, some years ago, we did make a commitment to the municipal corporations, and you had made an announcement some time ago regarding allocation for housing. I think it was closer to the COVID period. What has happened?
Remember, we started that program, and because of COVID, we scaled down the program. There are some MCs which were instructed if you can fund the program and claim back for the funding from the ministry. And they have been doing that. It is on the housing and the funeral grant. We
Those
hope
who
to,
can afford it.
Funeral grant for no knock you,
we
please.
are. It is our intention to reinstate fully the program in the new financial year.
In this financial year?
Yes.
Is it currently in this budget?
No, remember now, those source of fundings would come out of
Directly from the PRF?
Or from property taxes.
Okay, so you intend to reintroduce this year?
Yes.
Very critical to the process.
Which is a first for local government. First for local government.
I'm yielding to the member from Eastern St. Catherine.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Minister, on 72,000, under the heading on solid waste, 22, I see where you have public cleansing and garbage disposal. I'm going back on it because it's a very sore and sensitive matter. I would like to find out in regards to if there's any extension for litter wardens, because I heard you spoke about, and I'm in total agreement with you when you speak about public education and community. Yes, so if we could have the litter wardens.
Let me turn them down in the background and pick up on a few things that annoy me. But firstly, this is not an ill of the Jamaica Labour Party. It's an ill of our political system, of whichever political party in power, or water and road system. These are two things that not only none of our politicians, none of the two sides ever get it right. The issue is none of the two sides have the willpower to do it. None of the two sides care about the people enough at the local level to do it. As long as we fix the highways that allow goods and service to flow from one city or parish to another, and help or up their economy, as the Prime Minister described it, grow, then it doesn't really matter as much. But one of the consequences for this, it's something that Nita Garvey was talking about the SDCs and the PDCs or whatever they call them. Because those things are not much in our community, if they're there, they're broken or not funded, there is a community disintegration across the country. By extension, that doesn't help us to break down the political hereditary and the political tribalism by the community coming together, interacting, participating in this democratic process, deal with the issue based on policy and not on partisan or tribalism issue. It is reasons like those because we are very disengaged from the whole political system. And because of this disengagement, whether it be at the polls where the eligible voters every election cycle goes down, or it's just at the general community level, or if it's what you want to hear on the political campaign. Is it just about the euphoria for you, or you want to hear about policies and what they're going to do for your community? It is those very issues also which we don't hold our local government officials and our central government officials to account. Because the moment we cast our vote and whoever wins, everybody goes back into political hibernation. And then politicians can just get on with whatever they want to do without being focusing on what they promise you that they're going to do or what they should do for you, or some of the things that we've been asking them to do for us, such as our road and our water, which has been a crying shame in 2024. When we were going to school in the 70s and 80s, a lot of our schools have one of these big metal tank on it to supply water. Isn't it a crying shame that in 2024 we have that same system in our community as quote unquote water shop and been branded as this is any form of development or worthwhile service to the community? Both sides of the political fence have failed us miserably when it comes to water regulation and distribution. Is it not a shameful thing? Is it not a shameful thing for us to call Jamaica land of wood and water, a land with many springs, falls, and rivers, but yet in 2024, we're chucking water on our head, albeit from a makeshift water shop, stuck a few plastic 1,000 gallons of container together and use it as a new modern standpipe. Where I call it water shop for? I feel so confusing to we the dons. No, say modern day standpipe. Plastic bucket standpipe. It's plastic bucket standpipe. The other thing we're confused. The 40 billion. We're going to MP. However, they are saying even though it's an allocation to MP, most of the roads that will be affected or come under that scheme are our very local roads, which are controlled by the municipal corporation. Is it not then a fair question for Nita Garvey to ask in tying the two together fund-wise? Because when on the operational side of things, both the MP and the councillors are expected to work together on the road project for this 40 billion or the 100 and whatever million allocation to each MP. So why all the fuss and brouhaha about this question? Seeing Gillette in action, this is why you should be scared about your democracy. With a Speaker of the House, which is the wife of the Prime Minister, who can harangue and decide what question gets asked, or if it's asked by more than one person. That is something for all of us. The Prime Minister is using the Spark program as if it's a saving grace. How is it, Prime Minister, that you're so boastful and the Jamaica Labour Party about the Spark program, but yet you have failed so miserably in the local communities to the point, Mr. Holness, where you are saying your base didn't even come out for you for the election? But some of you have been here for over 3 hours. Me, myself, I need to go and have a cycle because I've just had dumpling, but me not eat for a long time, sweet potato, plantain, and punayam with brown stew fish. And I really need to go and have a bit of cycle now, so I can come back and do your Tonight show. But thank you all very much for your support. It is important for us to keep abreast of what is happening in our politics, especially over the next 15 months, where we're trotting our way along to a general election that will be the decider. Yes, Patricia, the general election that will be the decider on the result of this, the most confused and deluded local government election we've ever had in the history of Jamaica. Thank you all very much for being here with us this evening. If you want to continue to follow this debate, you can hop over to PBCJ, where it is continuing. But from Global TV, this is Good Evening from Drive Time London. Thank you very much for being here with us.